What's up, guys? This is episode 2 of RP CONVOS. We got a good one today. Today joining me is a good friend and a great filmmaker, Chase Wade. And he's been on a few projects with me before. And he's doing a lot of cool stuff right now. So we're going to have a cool conversation with him. And be sure to follow Raw Productions for all the content. Got new stuff coming. So keep an eye out for that. And let's get started into the show. All right, Chase, how you doing? How's life been treating you lately?
Oh, I've been good. I've been hanging out, had a little time off, so I've been home to see the family and had some fun, which didn't get to do a whole lot of being so busy over the summer.
Right.
But, I'm happy to be here. Happy to be doing this.
Nice. So not only is Chase my second guest, but you're also the first in-person guest. So we got to test out some new equipment.
Yep.
We got some podcast type stuff going. So
it's very exciting, very professional.
Yeah. We'll just get right into it, dude. And how'd you get started into filmmaking?
So before I go too in depth here, my lawyer wants me to do this little disclaimer. So this is
okay.
Just,
go for it.
So I just don't want to be in any sort of trouble or anything.
Go for it. We're all about that.
First of all these views represent my own, not my employer's. Nothing said on this podcast should be considered financial, legal, medical, or life advice. Neither I nor Rob Productions shall be held responsible for any harm caused by heeding the advice given. Possible side effects include diarrhea, nausea, and vomiting. Contact your doctor if you have an erection lasting for more than 4 hours. Viewer discretion is advised.
Yeah, so how'd you get started into filmmaking?
I wouldn't say I did a lot of necessarily filmmaking as a kid, but I think I always, at least whenever I was really young, I really liked being in front of a camera. You know, I was the one that was always like making up songs and singing and putting on crazy costumes on like the home VHS tapes.
Yeah.
But I didn't really get too big into filmmaking until I want to say probably, I feel like it was around 6th or 7th grade was when I first started getting into it. And it really started because of like school projects, like whenever we would have video projects in elementary school. I just always wanted to make them like really good.
Yeah.
I remember we had one, I want to say it was in 6th grade that we had to do like a how-to video. And my friend and I just like went all out. I was just like so intent on making it like the best in the class that like we actually had like a real cop get involved because, you know, we wanted to make it realistic and we got handcuffed and there was a police car. And that was kind of the first taste of me being like, I want to make the best video. Not that really had anything to do with filmmaking at the time.
It's kind of like the taste, though.
Yeah, just that little bit of like, I made something and people are laughing, they're enjoying it, and they're thinking it's, you know, the best in the class at least.
Right.
And so that kind of continued into high school too. If there was a video project, my friends and I just were like, we're going to go all out. Like we want to have the best video in the class. I think when I really got into it, because I was never a big movie watcher.
Okay.
As a kid, like I really, you know, we didn't have any like family movie night. My family didn't go to the movie theaters. It just wasn't a thing. I really, you know, I would watch some shows and movies randomly, but I never like got hooked on a series as a kid or like wanted to go see Star Wars in the movie theater or anything. So that never really clicked for me. And I think what really changed things was I took a trip to LA. Because I had a family member in San Diego, and we spent, I think it was only like 2 days in LA. You know, of course, we're going to go to like Hollywood Boulevard, and we did Universal Studios. The funny thing, it was the Universal Studios was the studio tour. And it, you know, there it's like an attraction that you wait like 2 hours for, and they put you on a trolley and you go around the sets. And there's, you know, ride elements and stuff involved too.
Right.
For whatever reason, I was just like super interested going around like the back lot and stuff, like something in my head just clicked that like, of course I hadn't seen any of the movies that I'm seeing the sets. I'm seeing the sets and stuff for, and I'm like, I don't know why I'm so interested, but I think seeing the picture cars and seeing the different sets, the back lot, going around the studio and seeing some of the different, you know, just everything involved, just had me really interested. And I remember being like, I actually made my family go again the second day we were at Universal, and they were like, it's going to be the same thing. And I was like, I don't care. I want to, cool. I want to do it again.
Yeah.
And then I think I went back in 8th grade, I want to say 8th or 9th grade, in like the summer. And we did Universal again, did the tour, but this time I was like, I also want to do Sony. I want to go around the Sony studios, do their tour, and I want to do the Warner Brothers tour. And once again, we only did like 2 or 3 days in LA, but we did, I think, those 3 tours. And like I said, had never seen most of the movies, because, you know, everyone's like, oh, this was filmed here, and then this soundstage is where so-and-so is being filmed, and I hadn't seen any of it.
Yeah, so you couldn't really like relate to that, but like just the aspect of it was
it's weird, because most people are like, oh my gosh, this is my favorite show, it's so cool, but I just thought it was cool that something was filmed there.
Yeah.
And then high school, I did like broadcasting. And early on, I wasn't really that into it, because it was more like news-based.
Yeah.
But I had fun, because we were making videos like with friends and stuff. And little by little, I kind of picked up, you know, editing and shooting and stuff. And then very quickly, I became kind of the go-to student for whenever it came to doing videos for the elementary schools, or recording performances, doing football games, stuff like that.
So you said you weren't really into watching movies and TV shows as a kid. Were you more like the performative or like outside kid, or what kind of like, did you do anything creative that you think could have led to that, or just kind
Dude, I had a lot of Matchbox cars.
Okay.
A lot of Matchbox cars.
So
and the funny thing is, I thought for whenever I was a kid, almost the whole time, at least the first couple of years, I thought I was going to work in construction. I love construction trucks. I love hard hats. And I was like, you know, anytime I could watch a construction zone or whatever, like I was so into it. I do not know why. I guess I went as like, I'm thinking about career day now, like in elementary school. I know I went as like a construction worker once. I went as an architect, because of course my parents are like, you can't be a construction worker. You need to make more money. An architect makes a lot lot more money. And I was like, okay, great.
And then you went to filmmaking.
Of course, yeah. Who won that one, mom and dad? Well, the funny thing, and I will never let them like let this go as like a why did you let me do this kind of type of thing. Do you know what they let me go as for career fair in like 5th or 6th grade?
What did they do?
A magician.
A magician?
Yeah. They let me dress up, no joke, in like a fake mustache, a suit and tie, and a top hat.
That's pretty funny.
I didn't even know any magic tricks either. That was a crazy thing. And of course, you know, I went to a Catholic school too, in elementary school. So of course, everybody is coming as like doctors and like lawyers and like all these crazy, you know, a couple of like firemen and stuff and police officers. But here I am, no joke, in a fake mustache and a top hat.
Yeah. Oh
saying
my
I want to be a magician.
What did the teachers think?
I remember we went to church that day, actually, and I remember people actually laughing.
Did you go dressed up as a magician?
I did, yeah, dude. Everyone went.
Oh my gosh.
In their, you know, dress up outfit. And I remember the priest would go around and ask people what they wanted to do. And they're like, oh, what are you? And it's like, I'm a magician.
What the? And what part of high school did you think, oh yeah, I want to do filmmaking as a career, I want to go to film school, that kind of thing?
It was pretty late, actually. It was, like I said, I had done broadcasting. I started in 10th grade and then got really serious with it, my 11th grade year especially. I was really close to doing physical therapy.
Wow.
Super close. I didn't really know what I wanted to do at that time. And, you know, it seemed like, okay, I want something that makes money. I want something that's kind of like, there's a little bit of prestige to it. Of course, my family was pushing me like very heavily. Was pretty close to committing to it.
Wow.
But I looked at Penn State too. And I don't know. I think it was right around the time that we would have had to commit that something just kind of clicked for me. And it was mostly because of that high school broadcasting class that I was like, you know what, I think I have talent with this. This is something that I enjoy doing. And I guess for a while I just didn't really think about the career potential of it because it always seemed more like a hobby.
Right.
But, my teacher told me about some people who had done his program and were working for, companies like the NFL, like doing video work and stuff for them. And so that's when I kind of realized that I didn't want to do physical therapy, that I didn't have an interest. Right. I didn't want to do all that schooling. I didn't really like St. Francis that much. I wanted to go to Penn State because my friends were going there and it was closer to home. It was cheaper. The other big reason I picked Penn State, ironically, was the Hollywood program. Because, of course, in 11th grade, once I decided I did want to do film, I was like, I need to look at UCLA and USC and NYU and Syracuse. And I thought, that I had to go to one of these big schools. But it just seemed way too expensive, way too hard to move. Like I said, my friends were at Penn State. I got good scholarships and stuff. So that's kind of what I decided that I was going to go that route. And of course, sure enough, I didn't even try to do the Hollywood program between COVID and graduating early and stuff. So kind of, I don't know if I want to say it backfired, but it ended up not being that important because I didn't do it.
Yeah.
I would say the biggest thing was financially. I looked and I thought, especially going into film, nobody wants to be $150,000 in debt and then
that's a lot to pay off.
Especially in film. It's one thing if you're gonna be a doctor making $150K right out of school, but I was like, I'm not. It's like let's just get through school, get the degree, and then see where it takes us rather than starting that deep in the hole. So.
And then, did you start right at University Park campus for Penn State, or what campus did you start?
I did Altoona because it was close to home. And going back to the money thing, I thought I'll stay whenever I do the gen eds and stuff. I'll stay home.
And then when you got to, I guess the last, 2 years or a year and a half at UP?
Yep.
What was that like with the film experience?
It was tough. I'm not gonna lie, because a lot of the film majors were there from freshman year, and they did seminar and stuff together. You were there?
Yeah, I was there all 4.
Yeah, and not only that, it was really hard in general transferring in the spring because not very many people did that. Yeah, and just trying to learn the campus. There's not like all kinds of orientations and all this like leeway with professors because they think that everybody kind of knows what's going on by then. So it was definitely tough adjusting and going into those film classes and seeing almost everybody knowing each other. There was only 1 or 2 people that transferred in that semester besides me. So it was tough at first. It was definitely tough. Just meeting people and trying to kind of break into some of the groups and stuff that were already starting to be formed. But I enjoyed it. I made friends pretty quickly in film. It's hard not to whenever you're, it's so hands-on and interactive and stuff that. So I adapted pretty quickly, I think, and I did enjoy it a lot. I was very happy to be there until COVID cut my already short college career short there too, and that made a first semester of real film classes a lot harder as well.
Was that COVID's spring semester your first semester there? Or
at UP, yeah.
Really? Wow. Yeah, because we were in a documentary class together.
Yep, we were.
Now, you were in the front and I was towards the back, so we didn't really talk. But, it was weird going from being in class. Yeah. And I remember going up towards COVID, we had to do our final documentary. So we all had these big ideas. Do you remember what your idea was? I know you do.
Did I tell you? Did I ever tell you?
I'm pretty sure. I remember it sticking out to me. I just don't know the basis.
I was going to say, the funny thing is you brought up that class. Yeah, I partnered with Lex, and I committed. There's a video of me actually committing with Lex, and I was like, it's going to be a documentary about overcoming fears, and I'm going to skydive.
Wow.
And there's a video of us walking out of class that day because we were like, all right, we're going to start this now, like this, showing this process of like the preparation and if I can make it happen. And so there's a video of us walking out of class, and I'm like, guys, I just committed to skydiving for this documentary. Like that's our final project.
Wow.
And we were looking up like companies that we could do it through and like planning it out.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, of course, right before I think spring break, which is whenever we never came back from.
Yeah.
So we came up with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I swore I was going to do it. And now I swear to people that COVID only happened because I was going to die if I went skydiving.
That's a great point.
So I apologize to everybody.
That would have been a dope film. And then we hit COVID, so we had to do smaller at-home documentary projects. So
Yeah.
I interviewed my younger brother and my mom about their different quarantine experiences
Mm-hmm.
of different generations. And then I remember, and I believe this was yours, you went around Altoona at night
Mm-hmm.
and got these, I don't know, they were just very eerie shots.
Mm-hmm.
I remember watching that and being like, oh, like, these shots are good. The sound design was like really dope.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this, is like one of those videos you see on TikTok. Like, and so I guess kind of talk about your experience with that being before COVID and after COVID. What was your filmmaking experience like?
That one, first of all, I just kind of wanted something easy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I decided I was going to do what we call like a sense of place.
Mm-hmm.
I had fun with it though too. And even looking back now, I think it's a really cool kind of almost a time capsule of what things were like.
Yeah.
Because I did go around and these empty storefronts, and the highway just empty for miles, and the signs on the doors like "Sorry, we're closed."
Mm-hmm.
So it was cool. That was a cool experience. I hadn't even really done anything super filmy, I guess I would say.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of what we had already done was doc stuff because that's the only class I had taken, and I hadn't PA'd on anybody else's films or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty much everything I had done pre-COVID was kind of run and gun, kind of having fun with it. I actually don't even know if you know about this. I did one film at Penn State Altoona during COVID semester. So I got really involved with the dance team at Penn State Altoona, doing their videography and stuff. I would record their shows, and then we did like a pre-recorded dance type of thing together. And the director of that dance program came to me and said, I really like what we're doing with the video stuff, but I want to do like a full-fledged film, like not even dance-based, but I want to use the dancers, we'll use the costume shop resources, we'll see if we can get some money for it. Mm-hmm. And he was like, I want to write this film, and I want you to like shoot it.
Yeah.
And we did. And I think some of the visuals are pretty. Mm-hmm. The costumes were amazing.
Yeah.
Some of the locations were super duper cool. Story was and of course, I'm credited as the director, but really it was so run and gun as a narrative film that all I could really focus on was the camera and changing lenses and stuff and just kind of covering as much of it as I could. So I'm not going to act like it's all silent. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to act like it's some kind of crazy great film or anything, but that was kind of my first like semi more serious, working with groups of people.
Yeah.
And someone else's written script and shooting it and editing it all and getting feedback on it.
Yeah. And then during that COVID spring, that was when the Hollywood program was getting set for the following year. Mm-hmm. And so that's when I interviewed and like heard about it. Were you still thinking it at that time? At what point did you think, I don't really want to do Hollywood. I want to, stay here my senior spring and like do projects and stuff?
Honestly, it just didn't time up because I had finished my gen eds at Altoona and most of my electives. I really only had film classes left by the time I got to UP. Almost all my credits left were film classes. In the way that certain classes fell into semesters and stuff and when you could take them and prerequisites, there was no way for me to do Hollywood program without adding kind of an unnecessary semester.
Gotcha.
So it was, in some ways it was a bummer, but I was like, you know what? I would rather graduate early and not have to do an extra semester, save the money, start working earlier. So that's really all it came down to. It was just that it was kind of just the the way things lined up and timed up that
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't feel like it was my best thing, even though I was really interested in it.
Yeah, I feel you. And then fall semester is when we really first met, senior year. So this is after COVID.
Yep.
Still had COVID because we had to work around that. But
Yeah, I love COVID.
that was our first time really meeting and then working on a project together.
Yeah.
And that was for Des and his film Webs.
Oh, that's right. Dude, how did I almost forgot that. I thought you were
Really?
going to jump right into our films. Yeah.
Yeah, that was our first one.
That's
and
right.
And you were the AD on that.
Yes.
And I was the DP. And it was an experimental type narrative film, I'd say, with
Accurate.
a
Sure.
bug world and a lot of cool costumes and design. And but yeah, it was such a, I think, experimental, surreal world that we got to work a lot with different lighting and techniques and
cool locations.
yeah. And so I think just being on set, like, we had like a lot of cool ideas. So what were some of your moments with that project? And I guess now knowing that COVID spring was kind of your first spring at State College, I guess that was kind of like your big project then. I guess it was kind of mine too. But so like, what was your thoughts on that? Because I don't know. I didn't know that was your first real project, I guess.
Yep.
So like when you're AD, I was like, oh, this guy's been doing it for a while. And we just never had class together. So
I'm not even sure. I'm trying to think of how like Des and I we must have been talking.
Was it through Lily?
I assume so, and we must have been friends and just through class, I guess. But remember, he like called me one day, or maybe it was Lily. I can't even remember. Someone was like, "Hey, we're gonna shoot this film. Like, if you want experience, do you want to AD it?" Because I wasn't even in the class or anything. It was just kind of, needed an extra set of hands. I wanted the experience, and so I was like, yeah, I'll do it. Absolutely, I'll AD. I took it very seriously, and I honestly kind of miss it, that kind of mindset, just because I love to nitpick details and just think through schedules and planning and shot order and organizing call times and actors and stuff. So I really enjoyed that. It was definitely a big learning experience going through and seeing what worked and what didn't, and how to work with everybody, the director, you as the DP, the cast, the producer. So for me, it wasn't so much of a creative endeavor as it was almost a administrative, I guess, kind of experience, and kind of overseeing kind of just that everything was getting done, not necessarily how it was getting done. Obviously, we did get to collaborate a lot on some shots and lighting and stuff, since it was kind of all hands on deck. But that film for me was definitely more of a kind of paperwork, organizational type of experience. Which, like I said, I actually really enjoyed.
And I mean, given COVID and everything going on, and having it be kind of extravagant film and kind of out there, and having to bring all these pieces together, administrative parts is a big one. So you and Lily came in clutch there, because she's the producer. Obviously you're AD, so but yeah, those were fun times.
It was. It definitely was.
Working with actors dressed up as bugs, it's kind of funny to look back on. But
going in
we had good times.
Yeah, we got that hotel room. Got to film for free in the night, and with the cast, I thought the cast was really good, and there was a lot to organize between the all these different actors and the wardrobe, and I mean, took each of them almost an hour for makeup alone, and so there was definitely a lot of elements, and it did, like I said, it was just a good learning experience all around.
I guess the fondest memory I have of that is the studio setup, because we had so many setups going.
That was very stressful.
We found the fog machine, and we're like, let's get this bad boy fired up. So that was I don't know. I feel like that's when we collaborated a lot on lighting, and we were like, we see it kind of eye to eye. We see stuff. Sure. So, that was fun. But yeah, you're right. It was kind of stressful too.
It was. Yeah, it was definitely stressful. But it's one of those things that we did what we needed to, and got what we needed to. So in the end, it worked out. Yeah.
So what were some of your biggest takeaways from that film, and having it be one of your kind of first bigger projects in that kind of role as AD?
You definitely want a team that and that you can work with. Things on that film could have been a lot worse, I think.
How so?
The fact that we were at least able to communicate, because I could see things going way worse if we weren't able to be as organized and as efficient, if there had been disagreements, and if you and Des had disagreed about camera angles, or if me and Lily disagreed about what we should shoot when. I mean, in general, I think everyone was very collaborative in it, and that kind of helped us run a little smoother, especially whenever we were crunched for time because an actor had to leave, or trying to make something work that wasn't working. I never felt like we got like super caught on something, like how sometimes you have those days where you're just like,
we're not getting through it.
you almost just stop, and you're like, I don't even know how we pick back up or what we do from this point. So that's what I felt like. Although it was stressful and there were bumps, we never hit like a full-on roadblock. There was no serious issues between crew members and cast or anything like that. So I mean, sometimes that's all you can really ask for.
Right.
So.
And then going off that film, we were going into our senior spring semester, so our last semester. And I remember it was a winter break, and so I just found out I wasn't going to Hollywood a few months before. So I was like, okay, I gotta take advantage being here my last semester. So I was like, all right, I think I want to write a film for narrative, and we had just worked together, and I knew we saw eye to eye on a lot of stuff. So I was like, okay, me and Chase could probably DP. And then I remember Dave Lockman called me, like I guess a few weeks before Christmas. I was like, I got this great script. Chase is producing it. And I was excited to join, but at the same time, I was like, okay, I guess I'm not going to be able to direct my senior spring. And I mean, that film had a great crew and everything. And Dave.
Yeah, they. It was supposed to be David and Grant. We're going to co-direct because Grant wrote. But David wanted to have a part in the directing. I think he wanted to do more on the artistic side, but it was the same thing. They called me. It was weird because they called me over break, before the semester in class had even started. And they said, "Are you taking this narrative class?" I said, "Yeah." They said, "All right, well, we have this really cool script. We're already forming this team. Like, we're going to get all this work done early on. That way we can, have a smooth run throughout." And I was, that was also kind of the first, like, really being involved in a project, like, from the beginning as, like, a core member. So that was... and plus I didn't know what I was going to do that semester otherwise. So I was like, yeah, absolutely, I'll do it.
Yeah, definitely.
So. And
then I remember Dave telling me Paul was going to DP, and I had just worked with him along with Webbed. We did another class project. So he was DP and I was AC on that. So we already had a good relationship. Yeah. So I was like, of course I'll AC. And then we met Tommy, and obviously we had Darnisha, Jackie, Jordy. So we had a big crew.
Oh, yeah. Oh, we did.
And a big cast, too.
Yeah. And it was supposed to be even... I mean, the script was a lot longer.
The script, I remember the first one was like 30 pages or something.
It was a lot longer. There was 2 or 3 extra cast members, multiple extra locations.
Yeah. And then I remember... I guess it was right before January. You texted me, and you were like, hey, I want to do something... horror related that I could DP. Do you have anything? And luckily I was already writing Ghosted, so I was like, thank God. So it was my kind of last project that I could direct and replace the Hollywood program with. And so we had both Ghosted and Picture Perfect going at the same time. So it was a lot going on, especially for you who was producing. It was. So let's start with Picture Perfect and producing that film, because that was a very ambitious film.
It was.
And what I mean by that is we already talked about how big the cast and crew was. Then you have multiple locations.
Oh,
and
my God. The elements
there's makeup and police involved, and
so much stuff.
There's a lot. And so to be the producer of that, talk about some of the challenges you had to work through, the prep work, which was a lot. So like talk about that.
We did a lot of prep in the winter. Like I said, before we even ever came to campus or anything, just kind of nailing down what we needed, sourcing props, and thinking about, okay, what cast members do we need? What actors do we know that we could maybe ask to audition? We did a lot of script revisions, just kind of cutting stuff, changing stuff. Yeah, I mean, Mara said, our professor, I think the first draft she read, she was like, "You guys can't do this for like, this isn't doable
I remember
in a
that.
semester. This is too much. Like, sorry. Like, what else do you got?" And we were like, "No, we've already been working on this for like a month and a half.
Yeah.
Like, we already have pieces falling into place. We know we need to cut some stuff, but like, we're going to do this." And she was like, "All right." So we did. You know, there was one night really that we wanted to lock our script pretty early on because we wanted to be able to just focus on all the administrative and scheduling elements and stuff.
Yeah.
So we had made all these notes and during the day, and no joke, I called Grant and I was like, "I have these notes." I was like, "Do you want to do this right now?" And he's like, "Let's do it tonight. Like, be done with it."
Yeah.
So I went over to his apartment and no joke, he started a blank document, blank page. And we just went through and cut the unnecessary stuff, cut the stuff that was going to be too much, you know, shortened dialogue, eliminated a character and a location, and like literally just no joke, rewrote that entire, I don't know what the final thing was, like 16 pages or something like that, 18, I don't know. And that's really when I was able to start focusing on, you know, lining it and finding all the different props and costumes that we were going to need and the effects, and start doing auditions and, you know, putting a schedule together. It did take a long time. You know, we started doing fundraising, which entailed, you know, all kinds of picture editing and descriptions and monitoring that money. And but little by little, you know, it came into place. We got, you know, enough money that we could do it pretty comfortably and do it the right way. And with Ghosted, you know, we knew that we had a lot of crew member overlap, especially with us. And then we'd have to be kind of careful with scheduling and stuff. So we had already done so much prep for Picture Perfect that I was like, let's do it super early in the semester. Shoot through it as fast as we can, and then they'll have all the time for post on that, and then we can fully just switch gears into Ghosted. And I was like, easy. So we scheduled Picture Perfect into 5 long weekend days. We're going to do a Friday, I think it was a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, then a Friday, Saturday, and then a Sunday backup day. Yeah, so it was in March. So we had everything scheduled, and I felt good. Had all these, I mean, like just boxes of props that we had ordered, and
your car wasn't even a car anymore.
My back seat was seriously taken up the entire time because there was either snacks back there was costumes, there was props, there was, whenever we would get gear out, we'd take out half the equipment room. So Thursday, we film first day of principals on Friday. Thursday, I write like this huge email. This is another thing that I just went full professional on it. I made like a COVID memo about like COVID safety and testing, and full on call sheet, gave everybody sides, outlined like how long we thought the day was going to be, what characters we needed for what scenes. You know, David, Tom, and I met on Thursday, getting final wardrobe and stuff, and you know, we were so close. And I remember I think we were walking out of a store. I think it was, might have been like Goodwill or something, costume shopping. I remember David just gave us this big hug, and he's like, you know, we're good. Like, this starts tomorrow. Like, you know, the worst of it is over. So we all got up at like 7:30, and I think we were going to meet at the equipment room at like 8. And I remember I was loading some props and stuff into my car, and David calls me, and he's like, "Dude, I just woke up. I feel awful. I have a pounding headache. I'm coughing. My throat's really sore." He's like, "I swear to God, I don't know how this could have happened, but like, I'm going to go get COVID tested. Like, be careful, like the rest of you." And I was like, all right. And so I talked to Tom. I was like, I guess we should go to the equipment room and kind of be on standby. And he was like, yeah. So we drove out there, and we like sat there in the lobby. And we didn't take out the equipment because we were waiting. And sure enough, he calls us like an hour after he first called. And he's like, "Dude, the test just came back positive." And like I don't even know if I can ever feel those feelings again of just like everything you had worked for just kind of like boom, like snap of your fingers, and you just realize like you're fucked again. And I was like, all right. And I was like, well, I guess we're not getting the equipment. I emailed everybody. I said, unfortunately, we're canceling. Not only, and this was when quarantine was 14 days, if we remember.
Right.
So I was like, this is canceling the entire schedule. I was like, so I emailed everybody. I was like, we got the next 2 weeks. Forget it. Like we'll have to we'll reach out about rescheduling. It was rough.
Yeah. I remember getting that text in the morning because I was still planning on going to class then, and then right after going to the gallery to meet you guys and start the prep work for that night. And I woke up and I just looked at my phone and I can't remember the text messages, but they were like, no. I was like, what happened? So I like quickly like got up, checked the text. I remember seeing that. I was like, what are the chances? But that's just something, and we'll get into it with Ghosted.
That's Murphy's Law.
Similar,
yeah,
but,
it's Murphy's Law.
That's something that a lot of people I think had to deal with during COVID on all kinds of shoots. So that was just one of those things you had to deal with, and it just for both our projects, but especially Picture Perfect with it being so
canceling
so
both
big.
Weeks. Yeah,
that day of, that was one of those where
it was just so frustrating having done all that work early so that we could do it the way we wanted to and be done early and organize it properly with Ghosted and stuff. So
but talk about being producer and having to rearrange and figure out and overcome those struggles that COVID put on filmmaking during that time period.
That was especially tough just because, we did have a big cast and a big crew, and I'd called Mara and I was like, no joke, like David just came down with COVID. Like, this is messing up our entire schedule. Like, what should we do? And she was like, well, can you do like a second unit shoot? Like, can you pick up some stuff that maybe you wouldn't need David for, or do some kind of remote directing, like virtually? And I like thought about it and I was like, honestly, I had just been with David the night before. Paul lives with him, and Tom practically lived with him. Yeah. So I was like, I think we're all going to get close contacts status. I just went back to the drawing board, reached back out to everybody and just laid out my note cards of every scene and just tried to make a new schedule. Yeah. And we were like, oh, we're finally doing this. Like, it's been over 2 weeks now. We can finally shoot. We started at the high school. So we had gotten permission to film outside the high school, and then we were going to do, I think, a driving scene or something. Mm-hmm. And got to the high school. I think we started getting set up. Pouring rain. Yep. And we were like, okay, well, we can't really do this right now. And we got a little bit of sunlight, and we were like, should we shoot this? We were like, no, we need the driving scene, like, as a daytime thing, because we have this truck that we're using. Yeah. So let's go shoot that. Well, we went. As soon as we get set up with the truck, starts pouring again. We're like, all right, well, we can't do this. Forget it. Let's go back, set the school back up. And I think we had about 30 minutes of semi-clear weather to shoot that quick little scene. As soon as we had felt like the lighting was about where we wanted it, just torrential downpour. So we're ripping down all these lights, killing the generator, packing everything up, and it was just kind of it was really a give up moment. Yeah. And me, David, and Tommy just sat at the back of the truck in the parking lot and just soaking wet, pouring rain, winds blowing. I mean, it felt like a movie. That was just like the icing on the cake after having to cancel everything and finally getting that day. And then we got almost nothing that entire day. And just feeling just so defeated. And for me, it was just like, God damn, this is another day that I have to try to reschedule with everybody. And, it's one of those things where it's not like infinite, just keep pushing back. There's a deadline at the end. And so every time we had to cancel or push something, I knew we were getting closer to, it was less time for posts and stuff. Right. There was a day that we were out in the woods until I think 3 a.m.
I think it was like 5 a.m.
Yeah. I guess we probably shot until 3 and then wrapped it right before the sun came up.
I think from my point of view, that was fun because I think that was our last shoot day, that 5 a.m. shoot, because I remember driving home. No one else is on the road but us driving back from these woods.
Yeah.
It was 5 a.m. I was like, wow, that was our last class project. I put like an Instagram story up about it, but that was fun because I try to enjoy all of that, even though it was a long day. But.
And you know what? I tell everybody, I'm like, listen, I know that was like, it was rough. Like, don't get me wrong. They were long days. They were hard shoots, but that was like, I feel like that was the best prep for like real life shooting because that is how that shit goes. Like you are committing to 12 hours
with the same people
and dealing with whatever comes up, whether that's a weather delay or, you know, something crazy happening. Like I felt like it was good prep, if nothing else.
Yeah, we just all got along really well. And
we did, yeah.
For being that big of a cast and crew on a student film. Yeah. But yeah, so that was Picture Perfect's production. And then I guess going towards Ghosted, switching gears from your producer head to your DP head. Yeah, I brought you on as DP for Ghosted. And then obviously we built a casting crew. And luckily it wasn't an ambitious script as Picture Perfect. Otherwise, I think we both would have been dead on the floor at Champs.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of always pictured it that way anyway, so it just kind of worked out. So yeah, I'd say we had a pretty smooth audition process.
See, I wasn't very involved.
Yeah.
I mean, by the time I was so wrapped
and that's kind of on
with,
purpose.
Yeah.
Because you were so busy with Picture Perfect. It was more focused on actors, rehearsals then.
Yeah.
But we did do a test shoot that went really well and got to bring on some underclassmen as PAs, and that was fun.
No, yeah, that was another really fun crew. And you made it really easy for me, too. You came at me with a shot list and floor plans, and, you know, you had an idea of what you wanted to do with lighting and camera angles. So thank God, because I was so occupied by the other one that, like, it kind of felt like I came in and, like, half the job was done, and I just had to, like, kind of execute. So
yeah, I remember we had a discussion over it. You came over to my apartment, and at this time, we didn't even realize we lived next to each other. Like, we lived in the same apartment complex.
Yeah, it was just funny because I was like, "Oh, dude, I'll come over. Like, if you want me to come over,
where do you live?
And do a shot list?" You're like, "Oh, well, was it 3?"
I lived in 3.
You're like, in Meridian 3. Do you know where that is? I was like, "Well, I live in Meridian 1, so I was like, I'll be up in 5."
Yeah, but it was one of those time slots where you weren't working on Picture Perfect, so it was like a half hour, an hour. I was like, all right, let's just go over the shot list together. Here's what I'm kind of thinking. You added some of your steady cam shots that I think between that and Born Sinner, you know, it's kind of a Chase Wade staple, I'd say.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Which kind of came in clutch after what happened. So what happened with our production after the smooth sailing through rehearsals and test shoots, my roommate got hit with COVID, and since I was close contact, I had to sit out for 5 days. And that was another one where we all worked hard.
2 shoots scheduled, right?
Yeah, we had 2 shoots scheduled that weekend. And that was the morning of, too. So that was another one where it was
just,
like,
just a backhand.
And because everyone else tested negative, I was one of the last tests. I was testing negative, so I was like, we're good to go. And I remember my roommate texting me, well, I'm positive. I was like, you're kidding me, right? So I quickly called Brian and asked him, what should we do? And we just basically figured out, all right, let's go with the shoot while we have it scheduled, because I'm not sure how we're going to reschedule after Picture Perfect just rescheduled for the last of April. So, so that was interesting having to do that remote. But I think the prep work we did beforehand
so helpful.
Saved us a lot.
Oh, my God, yeah.
We were on the same page with shots. Brian was there for all the rehearsals, so he kind of knew where the story and the actors should go. And, and you helped out with actors, too. Nick had a great sense of lighting and knew what I was looking for in colors and everything.
Yeah. If we had walked in blind, like we could have, I think we would have had a lot harder of a time. But because we had already all met, all gone over what we had in mind for, I think, the first shoot day, we had already kind of decided. Were you gone? Were you home? Did you go home? Is that why we could use your apartment?
No, we used Lily's apartment. But I didn't want to stay at my apartment, obviously, because my roommate had COVID. I went to Harrisburg to crash with my girlfriend, and then I would FaceTime in and Zoom in and be able to see it that way.
Yeah.
But then on the second shoot day, it was an outdoor shoot. So
Yeah.
FaceTime would not have worked. So you guys would send me iMessage pictures of the shot and say, how does that look? And, for the most part, they were dead on. Or sometimes I'd be like, let's move it. And it was so hard to describe because I was over the phone. So I would just call you and say, hey, can you move it a little bit that way? And then you'd send me a picture and say, how's that look? I was like, perfect.
Yeah. I was actually laughing because not too long ago I was looking through that time period, and I actually have so many of the pictures. Like, it was like almost 100 probably. Just pictures of different angles. There was takes. I would send you, full takes and be like, do you have any notes for the cast? Is this how you want it?
Yeah.
And it wasn't ideal.
It wasn't,
but
it worked.
It really didn't hold us back that much or delay us that much. Things weren't that hard.
Yeah.
Doing it that way. So
but what are some of your thoughts with Ghosted and being the DP mindset?
Yeah, like I said, the prep that we had put in and the guidance from you, I think definitely made a big difference to make sure that we were on the same page and that we have, an idea of the style that we were both going for.
Yeah.
And I knew we were going to have some opportunities to play with lighting and camera angles and some of the cool stuff between the overheads and some of the match cuts and some of the more like metaphorical stuff that we were trying to go for in the frame.
Yeah.
Biggest thing was just to have fun with it and try to make it, artistic, and it definitely was, a learning experience.
Yeah.
Playing
definitely.
with the lighting and everybody, camera angles, trying different things. It's kind of what it was all about.
Yeah. So we were working nonstop that semester.
We were.
Between you and the two projects, especially producing and me navigating the two projects and stuff. And then, it was nice to take a deep breath and be like, hey, we have some time. So we, being neighbors, could actually have a few fun parties we had
dude,
there.
I didn't need to Uber or get a DD or anything. I just had to stumble down the steps back into the other building. It was amazing.
And so we had a few fun late parties there. So I guess kind of going off that, what was your overall college experience like?
I loved it. I really liked living there. Film isn't as easy as they like to make it out to be. Unless, I don't think it's hard in an academic way, but the amount of time that goes into projects and stuff, I think is really underestimated. So I'm not going to say, it was easy. I had tough assignments. I had tough classes. Put a lot of time into a lot of different stuff. Woke up on the couch with my laptop still on my lap and pulled all-nighters and Carnegie tons of nights. So but I miss it so much. I'm definitely one of those people that like, oh my God, I wish I could go back. I definitely would. I do senior year over again, like right now if you gave me the choice.
So
you hear that, pre-college kids? Enjoy it. Take advantage of every moment.
I like that perspective because I think a lot of people would close that out, and I definitely had a lot of fun times. I'm excited to see what the real world brings and what it's currently bringing. Has been interesting, but going back to what you were saying with your roommates, were any of them film majors?
No. Cole. Cole is my actually roommate here in Pittsburgh still.
Half of Dose Buddies.
Half of Dose Buddies, yes. My better half. No, don't take that wrong. That's a joke.
I'm leaving it in.
Yeah. So Cole was like a business major.
Yeah.
A little bit of a difference between a business and a film major and two engineering majors. So,
what would it be like when you would tell, maybe not your friends because they would understand more, but just people in general, you're a film major? What would you think the general reaction would be? And what do you think of some stereotypes they place on film majors?
It's kind of funny because I feel like I don't know if this is what people really are like thinking. Because a lot of times they give it like cool, like that's neat, like kind of like that's different.
Good for you.
Like, yeah. Yeah.
It's like that saying, I love that for you.
Yeah.
And it's like emphasis
literally.
on for you.
Yeah. Bless your heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times it kind of seemed like, like that's cool. Like it's not boring.
Yeah.
It's not like, as basic as, a lot of the more common majors up there. But I think there is kind of a thing, like a stereotype where it's, okay, you probably party a lot, you don't work very hard, your grades aren't great, you don't really care about school, you smoke weed, and yada yada. None of that was true for me. So
my motto was always don't complain, because I had friends who were engineers, chemies, physical therapists, they're going through all that tough stuff. So I was never one to complain. But like you said, our major is a lot of time, and I think it's also what you put into it as well. So if you want to make a really good project, you're going to put all your time into it. And I remember senior spring, like not being in my apartment as much. It was a lot of hard work, and you guys want to go out this night. I'm shooting in the woods till 4 a.m. It's definitely what you put into that major. But now going towards film school overall, what would you recommend for someone who's thinking about film school? And
don't. Run away say that. And run fast.
But would you, like, honestly, and that could be your honest answer, do you think it's worth it? And what's your advice to someone thinking about going into film school?
It's tough, because sometimes I even think, if I could go back, would I do it the same way I did? First of all, I think I agree with you a lot about it is what you put in. You can go through the 4 years and walk away with jack shit. You might not really know anybody, or even the people that you do know might not like you or trust you enough to recommend you for anything. You might not have anything worth putting on a reel. So it is 100% what you put in is what you're going to get out of it, no matter where you go and what you do. So that's definitely something to keep in mind if you think that you're going to be more focused on partying, or that you're just going for fun. If you want to go just for fun, and I promise you, as a film major, you can do that if you make that choice. If you're going for the experience, then do it for the experience. But just know that if you're paying the money and taking the time, if that's what you're going to take out of it, then that's what you're going to take out of it. As far as actually deciding, first of all, whether or not to go, I think it depends a lot on what you want to do. I think a degree is a good thing to have, but I don't think film is one of those things where it's a necessity, especially depending on what you want to do. I think if you want to go corporate, stuff like corporate video or advertising or any sort of commercial work, stuff like that, corporate video work, you're probably going to want the degree and a reel to go with it. Whereas if you're more interested in like the true film and television narrative route, there's a lot of people that will just start PAing at 18. And honestly, if you start PAing at 18, that gives you a lot of, you can move up by the time you're 20, 21, and you can be pretty good. Even with the schooling, the average student that's graduated is still going to have to PA in most cases on bigger projects for a year or two. Whereas someone who might have PA'd at 18 could already be, moving up, and they already have all those years of experience under your belt. So it's kind of a give and take. But besides that too, like the money, really look at the money. If it's going to put you, if USC, even if you get in by some miracle, if it's going to put you $250,000 in debt, I wouldn't. That's not something that I'm gonna get behind and recommend, because, like I said, the paper just doesn't mean as much as it does in other professions. For me, I got good scholarships at Penn State. I was able to live at home, graduate in 3 years, so I knew the value, what I was spending time and money wise to get my degree. I felt like it was worth it. But once again, that's 3 or 4 years of, spending a lot of money and not working versus 3 or 4 years of not losing all that money going into debt and working and making money and gaining that experience. So it's definitely something worth evaluating financially, what your long-term goals are, looking at other people, are people that you want to be in their shoes, what did they do?
So we graduated spring 2021, and then at that time I was still thinking LA. Didn't really know how to make it work at that time, but I was still thinking LA, and I had my friend Lou who was thinking LA, and I was trying to bring you on board, but you never really broke on LA. You like, I would consider Atlanta. So then once we started our shift after seeing, I'm not sure how we're gonna do LA at this moment.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were shifting our ways to Atlanta a little bit, but I knew you were still thinking Pittsburgh a lot.
Yeah.
So what kind of drew you to Pittsburgh in your search?
I just wasn't sure about moving so far right away. Especially just because whenever I graduated, I didn't have a job anywhere. I didn't even have prospects. I didn't put in a resume anywhere. I didn't really have anything. And I thought, God, moving so far with not a lot of money and no job sounds risky. And the other thing too is I was like, well, if I really want to go the film television route, I'm gonna have to PA. And I thought, do I really want to move in for a year or two, pay that money to live far away and not see my family and stuff just to be a PA? And so for me, I was kind of like, you know what, maybe I was like, the film industry has picked up in Pittsburgh. Maybe I should wait and see if I can get something close. I have family here that I could stay with. I have friends that are, interested in coming here potentially. So that's what for me, it's just the timing of it. I was just like, you know what, I think I want to stay close to home at least for a year or two to kind of get a feel, like, get my feet wet in the industry and, get a start, be close to home, still be able to go home, not, be totally financially screwed.
Right.
So that was kind of my mindset with deciding on where to go after school.
And then what was your first job on a film set after school?
So my first ever PA job. So I really got into the union stuff by doing background acting. And the first time I did that was my freshman year of college, I think. But I happened to get so this is another funny story. So I had seen that they were posting for background actors, and I didn't realize for a long time that anybody can be a background actor. Right. Like, you don't really need experience. You don't need to be an actor. You don't need, anything besides to fit the requirements and be patient, basically. So my friend, who I think lived in Pittsburgh at the time, and I had seen this posting that they needed, like, very generic, I think it was to play young millennials or something, or college kids or whatever. And I texted her. I was like, hey, do you want to apply to this so we can try to be extras together? Like, this is something we've wanted to do. And she's like, yeah. So this was the finals week too of, I think it was my freshman fall. And I didn't take many finals in college, but I did take one that day. So we send our applications in, in the morning. I come back from like a 9 a.m. final. And I'm like, oh my God, I was up until 3 last night studying. I was like, I'm taking a nap. So I take a nap, and I wake up, of course, like 3 or 4 hours later, and I see missed call on my phone. And I'm like, oh no. 412 number. Oh no. I see text from the friend. She's like, did you get it? They called me. I'm doing it tomorrow. I was like, I got to call them back. So I call them back, and they're like, oh yeah, sorry, we tried giving you a call, but after we didn't hear back, we did unfortunately fill the spot. So we don't. She's like, you can be on call if you want, like if somebody cancels last minute, but since it's tomorrow, that's not very likely. And I was devastated. I was like, this sucks. I hate myself. How could I take a nap? I think it was the following week they had posted again, and it was the last day of shooting for this movie. It was Seth Rogen doing American Pickle for HBO Max. So I submitted again. I got the call, and they were like, can you be in Pittsburgh tomorrow? I think I remember it was December 21st, 20th or 21st, right before Christmas. Last day of shooting. I drove over here in the snow, almost died. It was the first time. I think it was one of the first times I'd driven here. I sat around for about 9 hours. I was in a it was a one shot. It was a oneer graduation scene. But Seth was in the scene. It was so cool. And that was another one. It almost like the experience at studio tours.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like something about being there just like clicked for me that like, this is what I want to do. Like this is where I want to be. This is what I want to do. And so that really kind of confirmed for me that I was like, because honestly, up until that point, I was like, damn, did I like make a mistake or something? You know, like, oh, was this really a good idea to do this?
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of my first time that I was like, this is what I want to do. Especially like I want to do these big movies.
Yeah.
2 other shows the following summer, I Am Not Okay With This and Manhunt at the Games. I was basically just driving back and forth, working 2 jobs in Altoona and then working over here too.
Mm-hmm.
I did like 7 or 8 days on each show, I think. So I had almost like 20 days over that summer.
Mm-hmm.
I loved every second of it. I loved coming over here. I love Pittsburgh. I love going to location. I love going through wardrobe. I loved, you know, seeing the like staring at the cameras, watching the monitors, being around actors.
Yeah.
Just everything. Like, I loved every part of it. And I learned a lot, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd actually recommend that to a lot of people, especially if they're like, you know, freshmen or whatever in college, or if they're old enough to do it in high school. Go do it. It's a super fun experience, even if you're not interested in film.
Yeah.
It's such a fun experience. You have to be patient. It's a long day. It can be very tiring. You make a little bit of money.
Mm-hmm.
But I just learned so much being on a big set that early.
Yeah.
Just learning about, okay, how do they email people? How do they block out a scene? You know, what are the different camera movements? What are these different, you know, and then I would go home, what does an assistant director do exactly? Or what does this camera setting mean? Or how do they shoot, whatever. So I learned a lot through that. And then the first job I got was right before COVID, first behind the scenes job. The movie Sweet Girl was filming right here in Pittsburgh. And they basically needed like 300 PAs to do a lockup of downtown. So whenever they were doing all this stunt shooting at night, there was a PA on every block corner, every alleyway, every door, basically just positioned for safety. And that was kind of just a gimme, just because they needed so many people and the experience didn't really matter.
Mm-hmm.
But that was another one that I was like, holy shit, this is fun.
Yeah.
Like it was a police chase scene. So there's like all these police cars and a film helicopter and a police helicopter, like literally driving, like literally right here in front of PNC Park. They would go over the bridge next to PNC Park, then drive through downtown Pittsburgh. That was the first night. And then the second night, they did a scene where they flip an ambulance. And I'm like sitting here in a freaking bar, you know, just making sure that people don't get, you know, hit by the car, the camera cycles and stuff, watching this ambulance flip. And it was unbelievable. And then COVID made things really, really hard, like that summer and senior year, because you could no longer just come over and day play as a PA or do one day as background. You had to come over and test at least 2 days beforehand and quarantine and get tested and all this stuff. So it's really bummed because I wanted to do at least background on other stuff here, but I just couldn't. And so when we graduated, I was jobless. Like I said, I didn't do an internship or anything, so I wasn't getting offers. And so, but I had known that A League of Their Own was coming to town to film a season, and they had posted on the film website that they were gonna take applications, and they posted that in, I think, March. But I was still in school. I was like, well, I'm not gonna apply, while I'm still in school. And so come like mid-May at the earliest, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna send my resume, just say, hey, I'm available, assuming that they had probably already crewed up.
Right.
And then I didn't hear anything for like a month. And so finally, right after the 4th of July, I get a really random call out of nowhere from LA. And as a film major, you get a call from LA, you got to answer it. thing. So I'm still thinking it's like a scam or whatever, but I answer it. I'm like, hello? And they're like, hey, is this Chase? I'm like, yeah. They're like, hey, this is so-and-so at Sony Studios. I'm looking at your resume here. I see you applied for a PA position on A League of Their Own. I was like, you know, hard skipping a beat now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah. Like, okay, are you still like available and interested? And I was like, oh, like absolutely. And they're like, okay. So they talked it over, and they were basically like, so this is like an office-based job, where you get the film and sound cards at the lunch break and the end of the shooting day every day. You put them into a computer, and our team in LA downloads and organizes all the files. You take pictures and send us like the camera and sound reports. Like that's pretty much the job.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, sounds great, And I was like, okay, this is cool. I was like, this isn't like, super, set PA or anything.
Yeah.
Like, and they're like, okay, can you be in Pittsburgh today? And I'm in State College, which is 3 hours from here, and it's already like 1 p.m. And I'm like, I could be, but I was like, but I'm 3 hours away. It'd be like 5. And they're like, okay, don't worry about it, but like you will need to be here tomorrow. Like you'll need to be in Pittsburgh tomorrow. I was like, Jesus, okay. Holy hell. So I call I was living in Meridian still.
Yeah.
And I had to move out by the end of the month. So I call my family and I'm like, I got a job. I got to be in Pittsburgh tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh my God, okay, well, all right, so be it. Try to get some stuff out of Meridian and stuff. 'Cause you're only gonna have the weekends now.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And what did they think about that when you told them, I got a job, I'm going to Pittsburgh tomorrow? It's not your typical way of getting a job.
Yeah. My mom was definitely excited when I called her. I think everybody was excited.
Yeah.
Because it is, I mean, everybody knows they're not easy to get, especially your first one before you know anybody.
Yeah.
And I had to call my aunt because she lived about 25 minutes north of Pittsburgh. And obviously I was going to find housing. I couldn't afford housing. Mm-hmm. So I was like, hey, I got a job, Is it cool if I stay with you? And she lives alone. So she's like, yeah, there's a guest bedroom. Like I'll put sheets on the bed and see you tomorrow.
Shout out Aunt.
Yeah. Thank you, Aunt. So, I mean, I drove to Pittsburgh the next day and I was lost. I mean, I walked in, I pulled up to the studio, got the COVID test, and I just walked into like this garage door and there was all these people moving wood around and people just running around. And I'm just like sweating. I called the coordinator and I think that someone actually took me to the office. Like, hey, like, this is Chase. Like he said he's here to see you. And she's like, oh yeah. She's like, I'll take you over to the dailies setup. And she walks me over and she's like, so you're going to be set up in the exec office. I'm like, okay, like that's a little unusual. I'm like, that's a little nerve-wracking. Mm-hmm. It's like whatever. And sure enough, this office was where the directors, the editor, all the exec producers, and then the star all had offices in there.
Wow.
So I'm like, no idea what I'm doing. And of course I'm in front of all these people. So she walks me over and she's like, all right, well, here's the stuff. Let me know if you need anything. And I'm like, okay, thanks. And I'm looking and it's just like 3 pelicans, like 3 huge pelicans in like cardboard boxes and a table. And I'm like, oh my God. I was like, does she think I know what I'm doing? Like, I'm just looking at this shit. Like, I have no idea. So I'm like flipping up the cases. I'm like, this kind of looks like a computer. All right, this might be like an Ethernet cable. So I started talking to the team in LA and they, slowly helped me walk through it. And I got everything set up. And I mean, long story short, that job was just easy. I mean, I worked alone pretty much. I didn't really have to interact with anybody besides the DIT and Transpo who brought me the cards. Mm-hmm. I mean, no joke. Whenever I tell people, don't even believe it because it sounds too good to be true. I was like, I took the card, pushed it into the computer, repeat times 6. I took a picture of the camera port, sent it in an email, and told them, okay, the cards are in. Mm-hmm. That was it. And the other great thing too was I mean, early on, I had some 12, 13-hour days. By the end of the show, I was working 8 or 9 consistently.
Yeah.
A lot of them were overnight.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'd get out at like 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. even. It was just easy. And
Yeah.
it was, I call it like the cushiest, easiest first PA job ever. And that's really what it was.
And what was your job title for that?
So, technically, like on paperwork, it's listed as like a post-production PA.
Mm-hmm.
My working title was like Slingshot PA because the computer system that they put the cards and stuff into to download and back everything up was called a Slingshot system. Mm-hmm. I would honestly probably really call it like a dailies PA is honestly kind of what it came down to because they weren't doing dailies on set.
Mm. And then talk about how that brought you into your next projects and then eventually your move to Pittsburgh.
After that ended, it was, so I wrapped off of that right at the beginning of November. And I stayed with my aunt every week and went home during the weekends that whole 4-month show. Mm-hmm. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to go home for Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. I was like, I want to be home. I want to be able to go up to State College, like, because all my friends were like still in school because I graduated early. So I was like, I want to be able to go up and spend time with them. Mm-hmm. And I did. I went up, you know, all the time. I got to stay with them and go out with them and see my family and spend the holidays with them. But then come January, I'm like, damn, all right, I've been off for 2 months now. Money's coming out little by little. Of course, I was living at home, but I was like, I feel like I'm not doing anything. So that's when I started substitute teaching. I actually really liked it. It was something different every day. Mm-hmm. The days were easy. You know, I was always done by 3. You know, I just like being in school. I really like schools because I miss being in school. So at least being there, you know, made me feel like I was part of school again.
Yeah.
And so then the next show I did was actually a little bit of a shift to reality shows, I should say. Back to reality. So I was on Staff Me Up, just trying to find something to apply to with my 5 free applications. I got an email the one day that said PA near Altoona. And I was like, holy shit, there's nothing ever close to here. Like, what the hell could this be? And so I apply, and within like an hour, the producer called me, and he's like, hey, like, I saw you apply to this. I love that you're in Altoona. He's like, basically, well, you know, there's this prison and sanatorium. We're like a paranormal investigation show, and we're thinking about filming at this place, but we want to send, you know, a PA to go check it out, take pictures, you know, give us some notes so we can be prepared. And he's like, you know, is that something you're interested in? I was like, oh, absolutely. He's like, okay, you know, if it goes well, you know, we might bring you back on to do the actual episodes, you know, if this location is selected. Mm-hmm. And so sure enough, like 2 days later again, because everything's short notice, I am walking, no joke, through this abandoned prison with just one guide, just taking pictures and just doing notes on stuff. And it was basically a mini scout. Mm-hmm. And so I gave them my pictures and notes and stuff, and they were like, you know, this is fantastic. Like, you killed it. Like, this is going to be super helpful. And so then whenever they came to shoot 2 episodes at that prison, show's Destination Fear. You know, they invited me back. They said, hey, we're going to be back in Altoona. Mm-hmm. You know, do you want to help with this like 7 or 8 day shoot at the prison? Like, you know, you already have a good idea of the location and all that. And so I was like, yeah, for sure. Like, you know, because I really like going through the prison too. Mm-hmm. My first day there, I basically showed up at their hotel, and they basically threw me the keys to a cargo van and were like, we need you to drive to Harrisburg. The crew is landing in 2 hours with the gear. You need to load up all this gear and bring it back to Altoona. I'm like, Jesus. So I'm driving a cargo van for the first time to Harrisburg. Good practice. If you want a PA, that's a good thing to practice. Go rent a U-Haul and drive it so that you can say you've driven a Sprinter van. Mm-hmm. So I did that. I drove it to Harrisburg, turned around, brought all that gear back. And it was like midnight. And I think it was like 12:30. And the producer walked over and was like, hey, I want to make sure, he's like, hey, don't worry about unloading all this. I want to get you home. That way you're rested to drive to Pittsburgh tomorrow. And I was like, what? And he's like, oh, did they not tell you? I was like, no. And like, oh, our last remaining cast member lands at the Pittsburgh airport at noon tomorrow. So I want to make sure you're like wheels up by like 9 to make sure you're over there with plenty of time. And there's a snowstorm forecasted. Like the snow is starting in Altoona as we unload. And luckily this was right after I signed my lease in Pittsburgh. This was March. This was like my first couple of weeks of having an apartment here. Still living at home, really. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to drive to Pittsburgh tonight. I was like, I don't want to drive in the snowstorm tomorrow. Jack, are you sure? Like, you know, you just drove to Harrisburg and back. Do you really want to drive to Pittsburgh now? I was like, I have an apartment. Like, it's fine. Then I'll be really close to the airport. And they were like, okay. Actually gave me minivan keys. Oh, wow. So they let me drive a rental minivan over here, which was better in the snow, thank God. But there really was a full-on snowstorm. It was a really intimate crew. It was only like 16 crew members, basically split into 2 groups of 8. Mm-hmm. So I became, very close with the people that I worked with. They were all super down to earth. And, with reality, non-union stuff, it's just so much more tight-knit and involved. I was moving lights and helping light. And, mm-hmm. I was able to give recommendations on what the camera guy should shoot, if I had an idea of a shot. And mm-hmm. So it was definitely fun being hands-on. Yeah. And just feeling more involved versus, PAs on these bigger shows. There's just so many specific departments and people that you can never really be involved. Yeah. Actually, they were going down to Tennessee after they finished in Altoona, but then coming back up to Ohio for an episode. And I loved working with them so much that I was like, hey, if you can give me a hotel in Ohio, I will drive over and do this episode. They were like, done deal. They were just so fun to work with. And since everyone was traveling, staying in a hotel, we would go to the hotel and just drink. Like after we got off shooting, we'd sit around, have drinks, and talk about industry people. And that almost brought me back to the college kind of tight knit. Like yeah, it was tight knit. Everybody was collaborative and hands on. And then afterwards, you're friends outside of the shoot. Like
film and drink. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, film and drink. Yeah, what else could you do? Mm. So that was it. And I had a lot of time off after that. I went back to subbing. I did that pretty much all of April. And then I found out that Netflix was doing a horror movie here. And I pulled up the IMDb, and I had seen that the coordinator on this horror movie for Netflix was the production supervisor on A League of Their Own. And he was actually from right outside Altoona. I just texted him out of the blue. I was like, hey, just want to let you know, like, I live in Pittsburgh now. Like, I see you're coordinating this movie. Like, if there's anything I can do, like, I'd love to help out. And he's like, hey, like, it's great to hear from you. Like, I'll definitely keep you in mind. Mm-hmm. I'm like, all right. And at the same time, Destination Fear was getting ready to gear up another kind of run of mm-hmm. more episodes. And the producer was like, hey, I'm going to try to let them... I'm going to try to get them to let you pick up a van in Pittsburgh and then drive it to New York to get the equipment, and then we'd put you up in hotels and you could do the entire run with us. And we're going to do an episode in New York, like northern New York. We're going to do an episode in Connecticut, and then one in like Ohio, and then Illinois or Michigan or something. And I was like, oh my God, this is like a 3-week road trip mm-hmm. with this crew I really like. Like, that sounds like so much fun. Basically, it's literally the same day, actually. The coordinator was like, hey, I have an opening for an office PA position on the movie. Like, is that something that you'd be interested in? Mm-hmm. And I'm still waiting. Like, I was supposed to find out that day about the road trip for Destination Fear. And I was like, oh my God, like, I'm going to have to say no to somebody. Like, and I was like, I can't say no to 4 months of work in Pittsburgh, even though I really want to do this 3-week road trip. So I tell him, I'm like, yeah, like, I'll office PA, it's fine. I'm done. Mm-hmm. It's work in Pittsburgh. Destination Fear producer texts me later that day. And is like, hey, unfortunately, the road trip isn't going to work out for you like this time around. Like, I really want to get you on something, but like, it's just not going to work. And the coordinator really took a chance on me too. Because we didn't really, like I said, on League of Their Own, I didn't talk to anybody really.
Yeah.
The only time I had to talk to somebody was if there was a problem. So I'd talked to this guy like 4 or 5 times, maybe, just kind of in passing. So I was really, really lucky that he kind of was just like, oh, well, he didn't fuck up too terribly on League, so I guess we'll give him a shot. So I went into that one, had no idea what I was doing, and just kind of little by little kind of picked up how the office runs, and you know, it's a lot of stupid shit, stocking drinks and food and cleaning and, you know, going and buying supplies and setting up offices and all that. But you know, this time around I actually met like a ton of people.
And so now that you've done a few bigger productions, what are your thoughts on them? Is this kind of the career path you see yourself going down?
Well, I'm starting a new one tomorrow, so I'm at least committing to a couple more months of it. And you know, I've thought so many times about going back and forth, and I just have such a hard time deciding. Honestly, even after at the beginning of the movie, the Netflix movie, I thought I can't do this as a guy. This industry just isn't going to work for me. I actually almost went into teaching. My family really wanted me to look at teaching because I had subbed, and there was a job opening for like the broadcasting position. So they're like, go get your master's in teaching. Go, you know, it's a guaranteed job forever. You know, you won't make a lot right off the bat, but you know, the longer you do it, like, you know, it'll be fine. You can stay close to home. I was very close. Like I fully like was looking at master's programs.
I didn't even know that, to be honest.
Really?
I remember you talking about substituting, and
Yeah.
I remember at one point you were talking about, I don't know if I should do the military. And I was
That's
like,
what my dad
dude,
wanted to know,
yeah, don't do that.
There was just some bad days
this.
early on that I was like, you know, I was like, man, I don't know if I can do this. And I thought, I mean, I told a lot of people that I wouldn't do another show. That, you know, that was my last big show, that, you know, I was going to do either non-union stuff or freelance, or, like I said, you know, the teaching was on the table, and I really, really, really strongly considered it. And then, I don't know, something kind of just clicked in me, just kind of towards the end of the movie. Part of it was seeing how much the other crew members get paid, and realizing that potential is there down the road.
I'll do it.
Definitely a bias, if I ever want to own a home. You know, there's still times that I'm like, damn, should I get out of this and go back to non-union so that I can move up faster? Or there's times that I'm like, wow, I have all this equipment. Should I try to fully go freelance, you know, at the risk of being able to pay rent?
Yeah.
And it's honestly something I think about almost every day, where I'm like, what is my trajectory? Is this something I'm going to do till I retire? Am I going to do this for 5 years to pay off my loans and, you know, get a financial base and just get experience? Then am I going to do something completely different?
Yeah.
Am I going to do 10 years of this and then try to freelance once I have the money to support it? You know, I don't like I said, every day I think about what I want to do, and I'm trying to just take it a day at a time at this point and just see kind of where I end up. Because it's one of those things where things happen very slowly.
Yeah.
But it's also one of those things where things happen very quickly, where it only takes, you know, one time, one person, one thing, one show, one whatever, for things to go really well, really fast. You know, big break, basically, is what it comes down to. So, at least for the time being, I'm sticking with this, I think, and just seeing where it ends up.
But you brought up passion projects, and that's something you and I talk about a lot. Oh, I'm working on this, or I got this script idea, and we'll get into Born Sinner then, because that was our first project after college again, and you know, something that we were lucky to do, because I think a lot of people are still trying to get back to those passion projects. But talk about the balance of that, of wanting to do these projects, but one, having the time, two, having the money, and then, you know, job stuff too. So talk about that balance.
Well, that is the problem, if nothing else. Whenever I commit to a job for the next 4 months, 60 hours a week, I can't take vacation days or a week off or, half day, anything really. It's really hard to think about passion projects. The only thing I would say is writing. It does give you, because if you can't be shooting, then you can write for 15 minutes whenever I get home, right before I go to bed if I want. But like you said, I have bills to pay. I want to be able to make these projects good. I don't want to try to squeeze something into a Saturday and Sunday after I've been exhausted at work and thinking about the next week. So it's really hard because I miss it a lot, and there is stuff that I would like to be working on and that I would like to be using my equipment, and hopefully I can at some point. The one nice thing kind of about working a lot while you're working is that it usually gives you a little bit of time off. Like I've had the last 3-ish weeks just kind of myself, just to kind of relax after so many long weeks, and then jump back into it.
I feel him. But one of the passion projects we got to do was Born Sinner, and that was in between your jobs, and I've been remote, so I can do that stuff on the weekends. So just talk about that process and the differences, and then your thoughts with it.
So I think we definitely knew we wanted to do something. And luckily Mark reached out with a script, a pretty good one, and he wanted to assemble basically a mini dream team, kind of, I'd say, which we were lucky to have. And it was definitely different because like you said, there's no class forcing you to submit things and designated times that you're all together, a free-for-all with equipment. But I would say a lot of the fundamentals were similar. We had kind of known what we were going to do with auditions based off of what we did for school. We knew call sheets and scheduling and prop hunting and all that kind of stuff kind of all was similar. I don't think I was really working much during most of that. I think I was on my own schedule with substitute teaching and stuff, so I was able to give a lot of time into thinking about that and not having to stress too much. Once again, like I said, you did the same thing with Ghosted, where you kind of hit me with the shot list and some different plans, and it was smooth sailing for the most part.
We've got that Outcast team back together.
Outcast.
We've been calling each other Outcast because
yes, we are.
Got that dynamic duo going. Shots. There's just like some moments on set where you can be like, I just have to go like that, and you're like, boom, or you're just like, what about here? I'm like, go.
Yeah.
So it's a good chemistry to have, and talk about that a little bit, like having a director and DP relationship and how important that is, and I guess kind of our process through these two films together, at least, too.
Yeah, it can be really hard, and I don't think it usually is for us, fortunately. But a lot, if either a director or a DP is just too dead set and a mindset, you're basically just hindering creativity. I think we've always been good at, sometimes it's trying something. Where I say, okay, let's just look at it like this. Let's just do a test shoot of this, or I'll say, okay, let's shoot it your way, but then let's do this shot, as an option. Or we can split the difference. There's times we're like, well, well, we don't like that. Well, I don't really like that. Well, what if, and we find a happy medium. And it's a lot of compromise. But ultimately, I think that's kind of what makes it better. If you're pulling the best of two perspectives, it's probably better than one in most cases. And if you can get to that without being aggressive or fighting about it or mad or feeling like your toes are being stepped on, and that's an easy way to go about it. And I've always felt like that.
Yeah, definitely.
I have always felt like you've been there for me and listened to me.
So you're talking about, you think Pittsburgh might be long-term for you. Is there any other places you think about, or is Pittsburgh really, if you could, your long-term place to stay at?
It's tough, because honestly, I would have never like 2 years ago, I would have said I would never see myself in Pittsburgh forever. I hate winter. I don't like snow. Now I wiped out LA pretty early.
Yeah.
Whenever I first started film school, first got into film stuff, I thought for sure I was like, I want to be in LA. I want to go to LA. I want to live in LA. I want to work in LA.
Yeah.
I just lost that desire whenever I thought financially about what it would be like, and then you see like the traffic and some of the drug problems and just all the shit that goes on there. And not only that, but then also being, I don't know what it is, 2,000 miles from my family. That'd be really hard, especially, you know, having siblings and grandparents and all that. I would go to Atlanta. I don't know if I'd buy a house there, but I could see myself there for a while, you know.
A few shows or something.
Yeah, like even 5 years maybe.
Oh.
What I really think, at least now, I want to do, I want to work here until I'm no longer a PA, until I move up into another position and kind of establish myself as, you know, either into a union position or, you know, make more connections. I really want to go to like North or South Carolina and work there for like 1 or 2 years, like be by the beach, be down south for a little bit, like live somewhere else, like get a fresh perspective. And there's a lot of work actually. I'd say it's pretty similar to here in like Charleston and Wilmington. I think they get a pretty comparable amount of work as we do here in Pittsburgh. But I don't know. I really love Pittsburgh. I think if we get the work that we think we're going to get and it keeps picking up, and especially if I just keep meeting people that are local and I keep having the opportunities, it would be hard to leave just because I really do like the city, and I love being close to home still. I have a lot of friends over here. So there's a lot that's appealing to me about Pittsburgh. So really I just need the work to keep up.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now that you're like, you said you're more content here and everything and find a groove. You think where you're at right now in just life, career, friendships, everything, like, would you consider yourself happy? I want you to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I'd say yeah.
And why is that?
I have a job, and although it's not easy and it's not always fun, it is what I want to be doing. It's in my line of work. It pays the bills. It's not great pay, but it's enough that I can live off of it comfortably. You know, I have friends here in Pittsburgh that I can come hang out with or can go out with and take a break whenever I need it from work. Because it would suck if I had a bad day at work and I had to go home, couldn't talk to anybody, didn't have anybody to go see, talk to, whatever. So I'm very blessed to have that. My family's super close. I get to go see them pretty much as often as I want to. I can, you know, go home, go up to State College if I want for a football game. So, you know, I eat good, as you can probably tell. I'm eating good. I got a bed that I like with a nice roof over it.
There you go.
The bar is coming together really nicely. The liquor bottles are just lining up.
That Dose Buddies party is just gonna hit.
Dose Buddies is hitting a new peak. So, you know, I'm not gonna sit here and act like things are perfect or like, you know, this is where I want to, exactly the position I want to be in forever. But
yeah,
I'm very happy for the time being for what things are.
Good. And so like, what goals do you have? These could be short-term goals within the next month or year. These could be kind of longer, 5 years, or you could even do 10 years. What's a goal you want to set for yourself?
It's hard. Goals are hard. The number one thing that I think has come up with me working in this industry is patience. Because, and I think that's part of the reason that I was ready to quit, is because, especially going to film school, you come out of it thinking like you're set and that you're ready for whatever. Nobody prepares you for the grind and the amount of time you have to put in doing the little dumb shit. And so I keep trying to teach myself that things will happen, but they're not going to happen tomorrow. So that's what I keep trying to be patient and remember that I am working towards where I want to be.
Yeah.
And that every day I'm getting a little bit closer and I'm putting in work that is going to help me get to there. So in terms of goals, it's hard to set a time frame, especially in this industry, because it's not like, all right, after 2 years I get promoted and then 3 years I get promoted again. No, it's you're just waiting basically for the right moment, the right person, the right time. I definitely want to move up. I am getting sick of PAing. I honestly don't know if I would PA another show after this. It would be really hard for me to do it again, I think, just because it is so much time and work. And then once you do it once, you've pretty much learned what you're going to learn, and you just feels like Groundhog Day. But, you know, I definitely love to move up from PAing, whether that be non-union ACing or becoming production secretary, production assistant production coordinator, some other department, producer's assistant. I don't care.
Yeah.
I love doing so much stuff in this industry. And the fact that I like can't do any of it working these jobs, like that I'm just doing like the bare minimum. I just want to like exercise the creative muscles more.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm just hoping that, you know, before too long I can get into a position where I'm able to be more involved.
Then I want to end each episode with some advice that you would give to someone who's in a similar position as you right now or recently.
End it all. Just do it. No, I'm just kidding.
That's our show. Stay tuned for next week.
Like I just said, patience, I think, is paramount. Don't compare yourself to other people and their journeys and think that because you're doing something that means that you're automatically going to get something or end up somewhere, or that, you know, because somebody else did something, it's not fair because you should be there. Everybody does their journey at their own pace and has to learn, you know, as they go along. So I would say don't freak out too much if things aren't happening as quickly as you'd hoped, or if you're starting to feel like you're stagnant. Just keep working, you know, give yourself every opportunity that you can. Keep working, stay creative, do whatever you need to do. If it's writing, if it's shooting something fun, if it's reading a book, playing an instrument, whatever. Just make sure you're doing something that's keeping you stimulated, keeping you creative, making you feel like you're doing something that's bettering yourself and getting you closer to where you want to be.
Till next time on Rob, subscribe to his channel too. If you haven't already, you're a dummy.